5 colors that don't flatter women. Over 60, and what to wear instead. On a warm spring afternoon in Oregon, Linda Walker, 67, stood in front of her bedroom mirror. She was getting ready for a reunion with old friends, college friends she hadn't seen in more than a decade. In her hand, she held the crisp white dress shirt she had loved since her 40s, a dress she had been told looked very professional, very classy when she wore it to teach. But this time, when she put it on, she stopped. Natural light from the window streamed in, and Linda was startled to see that her skin looked paler than usual. The wrinkles around her eyes and mouth were more pronounced. "I look like I've just recovered from an illness," she thought. She took off the shirt, sighed, and sat on the edge of the bed, wondering, "Am I wearing the wrong color without even knowing it?" That seemingly simple question led her on a whole new journey, a journey that many women over 60 like her are quietly going through, a journey to rediscover color, not to follow fashion, but to look brighter, more vibrant, more confident in their own skin, hair, and age. Have you ever put on a shirt and felt like you were disappearing into the crowd? Or have people asked you, "Are you okay? You look tired," when you feel perfectly healthy? If so, chances are the problem isn't your health, it's the color you're wearing. Today, we're going to explore 5 common colors that many women over 60 are wearing, but that are unintentionally making them look tired, washed out, or older. Not only that, I'll show you smarter alternatives, colors that can make you look bright, healthy, and attractive in an instant. But this is not just a video about color. This is the story of many women, like Linda, like you, who are learning to love themselves again through each dress, each shirt, each mirror. And I believe you will find yourself somewhere in these stories. If you are also interested in dressing well and feeling more confident at the age of 60 and above, then click like and subscribe to not miss the important tips coming up. Now, let's start with the first color, a color that seems eternal, but in fact can silently make you lose your inherent radiance. After taking off her white blouse and sitting quietly by the window, Linda Walker did not immediately return to the closet. She sat there, gently smoothing the wrinkles on her wrists, watching the maple trees in the backyard begin to change color. A strange feeling arose inside her, a gentle but persistent sadness. That white shirt, she had worn it on her first day as a middle school teacher at Eugene High School. For nearly 3 decades, she had believed that white was a symbol of professionalism, elegance, and cleanliness. But now, the thing that once made her feel strong was a pale shadow on her face. Linda stood up and fumbled through her old clothes for an ivory silk blouse she had almost forgotten existed. It had been a birthday present from her late husband Mark when she turned 50. "This color makes you glow," he had said, his eyes soft. Linda remembered that moment vividly. She put on the dress and stood in front of the mirror. This time, the difference was truly startling. Her skin looked warmer, her eyes more alive. The crow's feet around her eyes were no longer illuminated by the harsh reflection of pure white, but softened by the gentle ivory tones. It was more than just a change in color. It was as if she had rediscovered a part of herself, a gentle, thoughtful, confident part that had been hidden for so many years by the rigid rules of youthful fashion. And Linda isn't the only one. In Atlanta, Ruth Jenkins, 71, is a fan of classic style. Every Sunday, she goes to church in a white tight-waisted dress, a neat hat, and a classic round handbag. But lately, she has noticed something is wrong. Old friends who used to compliment her on her youthful appearance are now asking, "Are you okay? You look a little pale today." At first, Ruth thought it was the weather, but after 3 weeks of similar comments, she decided to do a little experiment, like you might do today. She cut a piece of pure white fabric and a piece of ivory, a warm, creamy white, and stood in front of a glass door, letting the natural light hit her face. The results were stunning. With the pure white color, her skin looked lifeless. The spots and wrinkles stood out. But with the ivory color, her face glowed, her eyes seemed alive. I look like I did when I was 55, Ruth recalls, her voice cracking. Choosing the wrong white is not simply a fashion mistake. It is a silent betrayal of age, when what once celebrated us now reveals everything we would rather hide. Since realizing that, Ruth has completely changed her wardrobe. Instead of pure white, she chooses ivory, pearl white, warm beige, softer, gentler shades, and especially more suitable for her increasingly thick gray hair. There's nothing wrong with gray hair, but what's wrong is wearing something that makes it look dull. Linda, Ruth, and thousands of other women have come to understand that color is more than just a canvas. It is the light, or shadow, on our faces. Linda stood in front of the mirror for the first time in years, not feeling dull. The ivory dress hugged her shoulders and wrists, creating a strange softness, as if her skin had just been watered after years of drought. Her silver hair sparkled in the light, no longer drowned by the harshness of the cold white. She said nothing, only smiled, a small smile, but it was the first genuine smile in months. It was at that moment that she opened her wardrobe, the wardrobe she had kept the same style for 30 years, and for the first time, looked at it with different eyes. One color stood out clearly, black. Black everywhere. Black suit, black shift dress, black silk scarf, even black shoes, black bag. Linda used to be a strict high school teacher, where black meant professionalism, formality, control, but something now made her step back. The black she once believed represented power, elegance, safety. Now, it was nothing more than a shadow cast over her very life. 3 time zones away, in Pennsylvania, Evelyn Moore, 74, was preparing for her granddaughter's college graduation, a girl she raised after her parents died in a car accident. Evelyn had been a symbol of resilience, of rising from loss, and she always wore black. Not because she liked mourning, but because she believed black made her strong, made her grief seem powerful. And so, that day, she chose a black dress, round neck, knee-length, shiny black leather shoes, white pearl necklace around her neck as an accent. But when her granddaughter, little Lucy, watched her walk out of the room, her eyes suddenly became sad. "Grandma, would you mind wearing something else? I want you to look radiant today." Evelyn was taken aback. "You always dress like this," she said, her voice soft but a little embarrassed. Lucy stepped forward and took her hand. "I want you to look like Grandma Evelyn when she taught me to sing, 'You Are My Sunshine,' not like you're going to a funeral." A simple sentence, but it was like a blow to the deepest part of Evelyn's soul. For the first time in 20 years, she wondered, was it the color black that made her sink into sadness, to the point where she couldn't get out? Just as Linda had seen herself in the warm light of ivory, Evelyn had finally replaced her black dress with a navy blue dress, soft yet elegant. Same dark tone, but a soft, warm dark. And as she stepped out of the room again, Lucy smiled brightly. "That's my grandmother. You see, black used to be the companion of many women after 60. It made them feel strong, neat, slim. But it was also the color, when reflected on the skin that had lost some of its moisture, on the gray hair that was fading its warmth, it turned into a silent accuser. It sucks the light out of your face. It darkens the dark circles under your eyes. It makes your lips look cold, even if you're wearing cherry red lipstick. Worse, it swallows up your inner light, making the other person see only a tired woman instead of an experienced woman. So what's the solution? You don't need to throw out all the black in your wardrobe, but you do need to tone it down. Go for charcoal instead of jet black. Still chic, still form-fitting, but not harsh. Try navy blue, soft but deep, sophisticated but warm. And if you're feeling a little more quirky, dark espresso or deep chocolate will make your silver hair glow like the light under a winter fire. You'll be surprised to see how differently people look at you, not because you're trying to rejuvenate, but because you are actually letting yourself shine again. Like Evelyn, like Linda. They don't give up on old age. They embrace it, with a little tenderness in the fabric, a little warmth in the gaze. And you? What color will you choose for tomorrow? The Texas afternoon wind was calm but carried a hint of early summer heat. Dorothy, 73, stood on her porch, a glass of cold tea in her hand, watching the neighborhood kids playing with soap bubbles. It was a sound that reminded her of her childhood, when summer was the season of sunshine, cicadas, and the pale yellow dresses her mother wore. Dorothy loved yellow too. For years she had worn pale yellow sweaters, pastel shirts, and soft yellow floral dresses. She believed the color represented optimism. But as time went on, every time she wore yellow, she felt like she was melting into the sunlight, not in a positive way, but fading, pale, dim. Her eyes lost their sparkle, her cheeks became darker, and the gazes of others seemed to pass right through her, as if she were someone else. She didn't say anything about it to anyone, until her youngest granddaughter blurted out, "Grandma, you look sleepy in this color." A carefree, naive saying, but it made her sit there all afternoon, not because she was sad, but because she suddenly realized that maybe what she thought was joy, sunshine, hope, turned out to be a pale gray curtain covering herself. She began to notice, every time she wore pale yellow, her friends paid less attention to her. The staff at the bakery she frequented seemed to forget her name. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But maybe, Dorothy thought, she herself was fading away under the choices she thought were right. And then, on another afternoon, this time at her best friend's birthday party, she decided to try something she had always avoided, a deep honey gold dress. It was a gift from her daughter, who used to be a stylist, but she had never worn it because she was afraid it was too bright. But that time, when she walked into the room, all eyes stopped. "Dorothy, this color suits you. You look like you just came back from an expensive vacation. What are you using on your skin? It looks so bright." Dorothy smiled, not because of the compliment, but because she knew she was still there. She was still herself, if she allowed herself to shine. From there, she began experimenting with deeper shades of yellow, mustard, amber, saffron, colors that she had previously thought were for youth. But now she realized they didn't make her younger. They made her old age more alive, more vocal, more colorful. And just as Linda left the cold white, Evelyn knew how to say goodbye to the gloomy black. Dorothy let go of the pale yellows like morning dew to come to the real rich sunlight, not fading, not disappearing. Age does not take away the light within us. Only the wrong color can obscure it. And when you walk out of the house in a color that makes people look up, that's when you know you made the right choice. Not far from Texas, in the warm waters of Florida, there lived a woman who believed that beige was the ultimate safety in old age. But she was wrong, and that mistake almost made her lose herself in the crowd. Florida, late autumn afternoon. The golden sunlight filters through the palm trees along the road, casting shadows on the small street where Maria Alvarez, 75, lives with her husband Ricardo in a small house overlooking Clearwater Bay. She has been retired for nearly 10 years, a former nurse, dedicated, diligent, and always loved by her patients. Maria always chose something gentle. Her way of speaking was soft. Her cooking was never too seasoned. And the colors of her clothes, mostly beige, sand, light earth tones, she believed that old age should be modest, not conspicuous. And beige, according to her, was the safest. She wore beige to the market, beige to church, beige to family gatherings, beige to souvenir photos. But strangely enough, in all those photos, Maria seemed to disappear. No one really remembered what she was wearing. No one said she looked good. And worst of all, she herself no longer felt like she was there. Then one day, her daughter Teresa came to visit. She was the creative director of a local fashion brand, charismatic and dynamic, always outspoken and insightful. After dinner, Teresa flipped through an old photo album and suddenly blurted out, "Mom, why in all these pictures do you look like you're part of the background?" Maria paused. She didn't get angry. She didn't argue. She just kept quiet. Because deep down, she knew it was true. The older she got, the more she chose the color quiet. But it was that very silence that made her invisible, literally and figuratively. That night, she could not sleep. She went out to the balcony where the waves were beating rhythmically and asked herself, did I choose gentleness or did I choose disappearance? Camel-colored coat. Not a light gray beige, but a sunburnt, vibrant beige. Maria initially refused, saying, "Mom is old. These bright colors don't suit her." But Teresa smiled, pulled her mother's hand out onto the early morning balcony and said, "Look at the ocean. It never wears one color. It changes colors constantly, and it is most beautiful when it reflects the light. You do the same." Maria wore the shirt to the next family gathering, where for the first time in years, her grandson ran up to hug her and exclaim, "Grandma, you look like the ladies on TV today." Someone else might laugh it off, but for Maria, the statement was like a hug from the past, from the woman she used to be, confident, present, memorable. From then on, Maria began to change. Camel instead of pale beige, warm sand instead of gray sand, mocha instead of faded stone, and gradually, she reappeared not only in the photos, but also in her own eyes. Every time she looked in the mirror, she was no longer a shadow. She was the evening light, soft but golden. And now, if you, the person watching this video, are going through your closet and realizing that there are too many safe and easy-to-match things, but not a single one that makes you feel radiant, please don't be sad. Because you don't need to buy anything. You just need to change the way you allow yourself to appear. And that starts with color. Not only white, black, pale yellow, or faded beige can make us unintentionally fade away in the eyes of others. There is another color, loved by most women because it is sweet, gentle, very feminine. But unexpectedly, it is the curtain that makes your face blurred under the light. We will travel to Atlanta, where Jane, a woman who used to love the color pink, has to face an unbelievable thing. That lovely pink is making her look paler and, sadder than when she is not wearing makeup. It's a chilly day in Atlanta, and the first gusts of winter wind are blowing through the leaf-covered streets. Jane Mitchell, 67, is sitting in her small office overlooking a rose garden. She's an entrepreneur, the founder of a chain of handmade dried flower shops, and is often praised for her delicate feminine taste. Jane loved pink. Not bright pink, but soft pink, pastel pink, faded pink, shades that she believed were of gentleness, kindness, and youth. Most of her dresses were in soft pink tones. From sheer cashmere cardigans to floral silk dresses, pink was Jane's signature color. But then, one Saturday morning, while wearing a pink sweater to a meeting of former employees of her old company, Jane accidentally heard two women talking behind her. "She looks so tired. Is she sick?" Jane was stunned. She felt as if someone had pulled her out of the rosy picture of her youth that she had tried to paint. That night she went through her recent photos, most of them of her in pale pink, and the more she looked, the more she realized something heartbreaking. In each one she seemed to be fading, not because of the light, but because of the color she thought was her savior. As she got older, her skin lost its natural pink. When combined with pastel pink, instead of standing out, her face became paler. Her lips looked cold, and her eyes lost their sparkle. Pink was no longer her companion. My college friend Helen, who is extremely practical, came over and said frankly, "Jane, you need a color that has life, not sleepy colors like these shirts." Jane smiled, but it wasn't as confident as before. Helen pulled her into a small shop in Midtown, where the warm yellow lights and rows of dresses hung like a concert of colors. Helen handed her a coral dress, a pink mixed with orange, bright but not too bright. Jane frowned. "I look flashy like this." But then, under the natural light near the glass door, when Jane tried the shirt on, everything changed. Her eyes were brighter. Her cheekbones had more color. Her lips, which looked as if they needed lipstick, were now naturally red. And best of all, she no longer saw the gray lines around her eyes as clearly as when she wore rouge. Helen smiled and said softly, "That's the Jane I know. No need to hide in any color." Since then, Jane has experimented with rose pink, raspberry, and even dusty mauve. These shades don't make her look younger in a forced way. They make her age look beautiful. And she realized a woman does not need to hold on to her youth with the colors of a young girl. She just needs to choose the right colors to tell her own story, with the beauty of experience, the softness of maturity, and the light of confidence. Because if you are already a radiant woman, you don't need color to lighten you up. You just need color to stop covering up that light. Linda, Evelyn, Dorothy, Maria, Jane, each one a story, a color, a moment when they realized that old age didn't make them disappear. They just wore things that made them invisible. And maybe you are on that journey too. Maybe you still love the crisp white blouse you wore when you were a teacher, or the black dress that was once a safe bet for formal occasions. Maybe you love pale yellow because it reminds you of sunshine, or you feel safe in beige because it never goes wrong, or pastel pink because you believe it's a sign of femininity. But how long has it been since someone told you you looked radiant? How long has it been since you looked in the mirror and actually saw the light in your eyes again? And if you're still asking yourself, so what color should I wear? The answer isn't in the color palette. It's in allowing yourself to be present, fully, vividly, and unapologetically. You don't have to dress like a young woman. You just have to dress to flatter the woman you are, your age, your character, and your inner light. In all these stories, no one became younger because of a shirt. No one turned back time just by changing to navy or coral, but all of them, from Linda to Jane, found a light that had been hidden for years. That light is not in the color, but in the decision to no longer confine yourself to safe colors. The right color doesn't make you someone else. It makes you yourself again. When you wear a color that lights up your face, when you walk into a room and someone looks up because you radiate this magical energy without words, when you feel yourself present, alive, then you have gone beyond fashion. You have entered the land of freedom and self-respect. You no longer choose clothes to avoid mistakes, but to tell your life story with each fabric, a story that is real, warm, and full of spirit. And if you're over 60, remember, you're not invisible. You may just be wearing something that makes you invisible. But starting today, with just one new shade, one small decision, you can be more visible than ever. And if you see yourself in any of these stories, leave a comment below, telling me which color has made you disappear and which color makes you shine again. Or share this video with another woman you love. Who knows, you might help them see themselves again. Don't forget to subscribe and share the channel with your loved ones. Because every week, we don't just talk about colors or health, but also about the journey of healing with age, with the body, and with our own soul. And in the next video, I'm going to tell you a truly shocking story. 71-year-old man died in his sleep. 4 bedtime habits you must avoid after 70. This isn't a scare story. It's a quiet medical truth that many people ignore until it's too late. Stay tuned, and don't let yourself or a loved one go through your final year without knowing it.